The first question in Unit 2. Discuss the causes, course, and consequences causes, course, and consequences of the 1952. The 1952, it was the first movement that can be seen in 1952. The 1952 Mulki agitation. A detailed discussion has to be made here about the causes, the course, the events through which the agitation was carried has to be discussed, and consequences, the impact. Consequences can be considered. Okay. So consequences are otherwise impact or otherwise significance of the agitation. So 1952 Mulki agitation, it was the first agitation of its kind since the formation of, the emergence of the Hyderabad state of, merger of the Hyderabad state into the Indian Union. It was the first agitation that was started by the people here. So what can be the introduction for this question? As part of the introduction, you need to explain the significance of this agitation. The 1952 agitation was the first agitation for the demands against the dominance of the non-Mulkis and against the damages caused to the Mulkis due to the advent of the non-Mulkis from Andhra and the neighboring states. That has to be referred here. Let's see that. After the merger of the Nizam state into Indian Union, the people of Telangana, they have started their first agitation in 1952, opposing the misuse of the Mulki rules and violation of the Mulki rules by the earlier governments. This agitation was first erupted in one of the parts of Telangana and subsequently went on spreading to many parts of the Telangana region. This agitation has some severe repercussions. So in that way, you can end the introduction. So after this introduction, it should contain a few things relating to the significance of the agitation. What we have to mention here, significance of the agitation, or the spread of the agitation, and the impact which the agitation has caused. So all these things can be mentioned in the introduction itself. Then coming to the details of the question, causes, course, and consequences. The question can be divided into these three parts. So each one of these parts can carry the equal marks. So introduction and conclusion can be exempted here, leaving that the three areas has to be considered as part of the body. Okay, as part of the body, first we need to explain about the causes. Yeah, what were the causes responsible for this agitation? So what made the people of Telangana to start this agitation? This agitation, if you carefully observe, it was started during the period of the Burugul Ramakrishna Rao government. It was not under the military rule. The state of Hyderabad was not under the military rule, nor it was under the M.K. Velodi rule. It was under the rule of our own men, the Burugul Ramakrishna Rao. Despite that, the agitation has been started by our own people. So what made them to start this agitation? So the background can be seen in the period of the military rule as well as the M.K. Velodi's rule. And apart from these two rules, the Burugula Ramakrishna Rao rule also has something to do with this agitation. Take for example, during the military rule, what happened during the military rule? General J.N. Chaudhary, yes, went on importing the officers from the neighboring presidencies, Bombay Presidency and Madras Presidency, the officer right from the lower level post of Tahsildar up to the post of Chief Administrator. Nothing but the district collector. He has went on deputing them, importing them into the Hyderabad state. So all these levels of post have been filled by the officers deputed from the neighboring presidencies. While taking the deputation of these officers, he has failed to administer the Mulki rules, failed to follow the Mulki rules which were in force. That was one of the reasons which has acted as the cause for the rise of this agitation. Apart from this military rule and its failure to implement the Mulki norms, M.K. Vellodi government, the civil government also failed to implement the Mulki rules. So during the civil government, various measures have been taken by M.K. Vellodi government. Many, the Telugu medium schools have been started by him because Telugu has been made as a language of instruction in the schools. So in these schools, so they were in need of the Telugu speaking teachers who were brought again from the coastal Andhra region, who were working in the Madras Presidency. So in that way, civil government also under M.K. Vellodi went on violating the Mulki norms. In addition to that, the Burgula Ramakrishna Rao government, so BRK government also has failed to adhere to the Mulki norms. So people have received this military rule, civil government and BRK government with great aspirations, with great ambitions. They have great expectations from these rules, the governments. But none of these governments could satisfy the aspirations of the people. They have failed to arrest the damages that were being caused to the people of Telangana region right from the Nizam's period. So after the end of the Nizam rule also, the grievances of the people could not be arrested, could not be stopped. So that was the reason for the beginning of this agitation. In addition to that, in Warangal, a students' JSC was formed. A JSC of the students' community was formed in Warangal. It has raised certain demands. It has made certain demands on the part of the government there. Burgula Ramakrishna Rao government was there in power. And they have raised certain demands to it. The demand have been made by the JSC here. So JSC was headed by a students' union leader, named Buchaya. This Buchaya, as a president of the students' union leader, he has raised the demand of identification of the non-mulkis who have obtained the post here by the fraudulent methods. By producing the false mulki certificates, by practicing the fraudulent methods, many of the non-mulkis have acquired the jobs here. And their major demand was to identify those people who have acquired the post here by fraudulent methods. After identifying them, they have demanded the government. The government has declared in the state legislature that all these fraudulent non-mulkis will be identified and will be sent back to their native places. These two demands have been raised by them. But the government failed to address the demands that have been raised by the students' union. So that was the immediate reason with which they have in fact made a deadline. They have fixed a deadline to the government for implementation of these demands. But the government failed to address their demands within the deadline which was imposed by the students' JSC. That was the reason which led the students to start this agitation. So these are the few causes which were responsible for the rise of the agitation by the students' communities here. The agitation was actually started by the students. And then subsequently, politicians have involved and many other people also started involving in that. So that can be seen as part of the course of the movement. So what we need to cover as part of the causes of the movement, the four reasons. The failure of the military government, failure of the civil government, failure of the Burgul Ramakrishna Rao, the popular government, and the failure of the government to address the demands of the students' unions. Right. After this thing, causes, now let's move to the course. How the agitation was actually carried. The course of the agitation. As part of the course of the agitations, students here, they have raised some popular slogans. The slogans were very attractive. And these slogans have gathered the attention of many of the students' communities throughout Telangana region. Though the agitation was initially started from Warangal, within no time it has spread to the Hyderabad, the capital of the Hyderabad state. It has spread to Hyderabad. Here, thousands of students, they have started involving in the agitation. Many slogans have been raised by the students here. You might be knowing about the popular slogans with which the agitations have been carried by the students here. So, as part of the course of the movement, agitations were launched. What kind of agitations were carried? So, in Warangal, the bunds were organized. Bunds were organized in the Warangal. Later in Hyderabad, rallies were organized. So slogans were shouted. Idli Sambar, go back. Gongura Pachadi, go back. This is how, so very popular slogans have been raised by the students' communities. So in that way, when these agitations have been started by them, it has spread to Hyderabad. So when the agitation spread to Hyderabad, in Hyderabad, some popular, some famous incidents have been, in fact, they were the infamous incidents, not the famous incidents. Infamous incidents were occurred where some of the people, the students lost their lives in the firing incidents that were occurred by the police here. So we have two popular events here. One can be seen at Chadar Ghat, the Chadar Ghat incident. It can be considered one of the important events as part of the course of the movement, Chadar Ghat incident. So, in City College, the people in the City College, near City College, the students here, they have started the agitation. So, on the occasion of the agitation, the police have opened the fire, causing the death of some 4 individuals. The 2 students have died here, and more than 100 students have got injured. Later, after this City College incident, the Afzalganj incident was also occurred. Afzalganj incident. In this Afzalganj incident, 4 students have lost their lives, and again, more than 100 students got injured. So these events marked the anger on the part of the students' community who have intensified the agitation. The intensification of the agitation, these incidents were occurred in the month of September. So on 2nd, and 3rd, and 4th, so serially some events have been occurred here. These events led to the culmination of an event on 5th September. On 5th September, what was happened here? Burgala Ramakrishna Rao, in the capacity of the Chief Minister, he was attending a program on the occasion of the Golden Jubilee celebrations of Sri Krishna Deva Rajendra Bhasha Nilayam. So it was a library that was started by Komaraju Venkat Lakshman Rao in Sultan Bazaar. So its Golden Jubilee celebrations were started on 5th September. Chief Minister as a chief guest. The Chief Minister has made a visit to the library. So on that occasion, the students have caught his car, the official vehicle of the Chief Minister, were caught by the students and they have burnt it. So this incident marked the anger and of the students' community, which has reached to the peak stage. So after this firing incident and after this the incident of the burning of the vehicle of the Chief Minister, slowly the politicians also started involving into the agitation. They started supporting the people here. So soon after this agitation, the government has tried to pacify the movement. And the measures that have been taken by the government to pacify the agitation has to be written as part of the consequences. So here, after this event, the firing incidents and the burning of the vehicle of the Chief Minister, the politicians, particularly the leaders of the opposition parties, the socialist and communist, so all these people, socialist and communist, so they started involving in the agitation, supporting the cause of the students' community. So in that way, the agitations were actually carried. So that's about the course of the agitation. Now, the consequences. What were the consequences of the Mulki agitation? So as part of the consequences, what you need to write? So you have to write about the sacrifices made by the students. So many students have lost their lives and so many students have what you call got injured due to the agitation, and following that the government here, it has constituted a cabinet subcommittee. A cabinet subcommittee was constituted by the government. This subcommittee was constituted as per the demands of the students. So eventually the demand of the students have been met by the government here, for which a cabinet subcommittee was constituted with the purpose of identification of the fraudulent non-mulkis. To identify the fraudulent non-mulkis, the government has constituted a cabinet subcommittee. Not only that, an inquiry committee, a judicial inquiry committee was also constituted by the government under the P. Jagan Mohan Reddy, Justice P. Jagan Mohan Reddy. So under whom a committee, judicial inquiry committee was also constituted by the government to inquire into the firing incidents occurred at City College as well as at the Afjalganj. So these are the two major consequences apart from the sacrifices made by the students. Another important consequence that can be observed here. So for the first time, the students community, they have launched a popular agitation in the form of the 1952 Mulki agitation to demonstrate their dissatisfaction, their discontent against the damages that were caused to them by violating the Mulki norms. So these are the few things which need to be written here. So your entire answer can be put up into some 150 to 180 words. Take for example, introduction, it takes almost 4 to 5 lines. So you will able to write hardly some 35 to 40 lines as part of the entire answer. So in every page 20 lines can be written. Your answers cannot be exceeded more than 2 pages. So 5 lines can be for introduction and last 5 lines can be for the conclusion. And you left with 30 lines. So we have 3 components here to address as part of the answer. So these causes can be summed up into the 10 lines and course of the agitation can be written into the 10 lines and the consequences, they can be put into the remaining 10 lines. So in that way, you can prepare your answer. Now, finally, the conclusion. Yeah, what can be the conclusion? In conclusion, what you can write here. The 1952 Mulki agitation marked the beginning of the idea of separate statehood for Telangana region. So the origin of the separate statehood of Telangana region can be found in the Mulki agitation that was started by the students in 1952. This idea from time to time went on growing in order to be culminated in 1969 in the first phase of the separate Telangana movement. So in that way, you can conclude your answer. So that should be the way of addressing the question. So causes, course and consequences of the 1952 Mulki agitation. So that's about the first question.